You don't understand how our biochemistry interacts with the biochemistry of our microbiome. So my point here is that you go in there and you fiddle with this incredibly complicated system, trying to work at that level, at the level of biochemistry or at the level of, like the microscopic level, and like move little things around, like you're doing brain surgery or something. You're going to screw it up. Okay. I guarantee you will screw it up. No matter how much you'll screw it up. I'll screw it up. Okay. My teachers will screw it up. Everyone will screw it up. Which is why the people who came before us, who were far more advanced in their understanding of bioenergetics, energy systems, the spirit, the body, everything, right? They found no reason to develop, microscopes and to look at things under a microscope and to develop biochemistry and to like figure out all the little nitty-gritty details of the chemical reactions and stuff. What they understood is that you have to understand narratives. You have to understand meanings. You have to step back. Don't step closer. Don't go deeper and find more and more intricate things, because the deeper you go, the more complicated it gets. It's like a computer, right? So a computer at its most fundamental level is like electrons moving around, okay? No one can program electrons moving around. Not even the computer can like understand how to move electrons around. What the computer understands is that there's these physical things in the world and the electrons will move through them in such a way, right? Like we understand how that works, and it just does it itself. It's physical material science, right? We didn't have to make those materials. We didn't have to make the electrons. We didn't have to make the gluons and the quarks and put them together, right? Like it's too complicated. And the computer understands machine language. It understands zeros and ones. Those zeros and ones interact with lower levels, right? Which interact with lower levels, which interact with lower levels. And eventually you get to a level where no one even understands what's going on, because like you keep splitting the atom and the subatomic particles and more keep pouring out, right? So no one understands. If you go too deep, you don't understand it. Even the computer doesn't understand it. It just understands ones and zeros, which tell lower level things what to do. We don't understand ones and zeros, okay? Well, I can't go into the bowels of a computer language or, computer machine language and manipulate ones and zeros and create Microsoft Word. It's impossible for a human being to understand. It's too complex. What I can do is I can program in a higher level language like C++ or whatever, JavaScript, et cetera, and that gets compiled based on rules that I do understand, that I actually made, turned into machine language, turned into, commands for lower level things like electrons and gluons and muons, right? So the same goes for human being and health. You can't understand biochemistry. It's impossible. You can't understand how the cells communicate with light. You can't speak that language. You can't program in that language. So stop trying, okay? What does programming that language look like? It looks like taking vitamin D in a capsule and putting it in your mouth and swallowing it. What is the right approach? It's getting the vitamin D with everything else that comes with vitamin D normally in the environment, which means going out in the sun, right? So it's super simple. It's not super complicated. Just understand what your life would have looked like living where you are today, wherever you are in the world. What would your life, just ask yourself this one question, what would your life have looked like 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago? That's what you need to get your life to look like today, as close as you can get to that as possible. And you got to think of everything, the EMF, everything, right? The sun, the time spent outdoors, the fact that like before the last 100 years, nobody had enough money or enough resources outside of emperors to own a house of even like 500 square feet, right? I mean, the vast majority of our ancestors spent all day outside. They just went into like a little hut the size of your walk-in closet or less to go to sleep, all right? They cooked outside, they cleaned outside, they ate outside, they talked outside, they socialized outside, everything. They didn't have ACs, okay? They didn't have temperature control other than like, they were, even though they kept warm, obviously, they had much more exposure to cold in the winter, much more exposure to heat in the summer. Then they did things to like moderate that, but within certain limits. Like it didn't go to the point where like they felt freezing cold in the depth of summer, right? That was just impossible to do back then. So all of these things matter. Your relationships with other people, your tribe, your grounding, they were always grounded, right? Like the more the better. We're never grounded now. So they had plenty of infrared. They didn't have window glass, right? Or if they did, it was quartz glass that lets in all the wavelengths, even the invisible ones, unlike the modern glass. So they were much smarter, okay? Just because the only thing that made them smarter was that they respected nature and God and the universe and the way they respected natural law. They understood that they were subject to natural law. What does that mean? You're like the subject of a king who is indomitably powerful. You cannot overcome natural law. It's impossible, okay? You will succumb to it. You are its slave, all right? If you understand that and accept it and have humility, then you will be healthy. And if you don't, you will be unhealthy. That's the long and short of it. So, hope that makes sense.